Okay, well, Kamala Harris yesterday had to certify Trump as the president-elect of the United States. And if there's ever a moment where you see somebody's soul leaving their body, this was it. Okay? This was definitely it. Now, on the one hand, this was hilarious. On the other hand, too, CNN melting down over it was pure gold. And I have not one, but a couple of videos, including our friends from The View. Yes, The View. Because, oh my goodness, The View are now calling January 6th like a Holocaust. Now, I'm pretty sure the family members of the Holocaust have some words that they want to say to The View. Because January 6th, there's a lot to be said about January 6th, but it's a blip on the radar, a true fart in the wind. It was nothing truly historic. I mean, everything's still fine. What happened the day after? Everything went back to normal. That was it. Right? There's a big difference between Julius Caesar crossing the Rubicon, and yes, I'm going to use that example because when Caesar crossed the Rubicon, that was a pretty big event, and a bunch of people going in the Capitol building. Nothing happened. It's over. It's done. But what isn't done is the internet. And man, the internet, sometimes you guys and gals could just be too brutal for me. Too brutal for my soul.
The state of the vote for the President of the United States as delivered to the President of the Senate is as follows. The whole number of the electors appointed to vote for President of the United States is 538. Within that whole number, the majority is 270. The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris Kamala D. Harris of the state of California has received 226 votes.
Oh, I'm sorry if there was ever an example of this. Here we go.
Oof. 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 Oof.
I had to. I'm sorry. I had to.
The whole number of electors appointed to vote for Vice President of the United States is 538. Within that whole number, a majority is 270. The votes for Vice President of the United States are as follows. J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio has received 312 votes.
BW, get up, go see the White House counselor. Kamala Harris made history. Oh, yeah. But not in the way I think the liberals or even she herself wanted to happen. And Sarah says, but we could call you Madam President for today. For those of you who don't know or may not know, the Vice President is the President of the United States Senate. Just see a little known wiki fact. Melissa Brooke, the heart, don't break our hearts. LOL, what a circus of pure madness. I think I'm going crazy right now. Yes, I am. I am going crazy. I am going crazy. Please help me.
Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota has received 226 votes. This announcement of the state of the vote by the President of the Senate shall be deemed a sufficient declaration of the persons elected, President and Vice President of the United States, each for a term beginning on the 20th day of January 2025, and shall be entered together with the list of the votes on the journals of the House and the Senate. Thank you very much.
Man, I don't know how Kamala Harris prepared for that day, especially, going through it. I think, first of all, it's like, oh, I got to go out there. 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 But, there's something that really stands out to me, and that is, wait a minute. Hold up. Beep, beep, beep. Back the truck up. Weren't all these Democrats saying that Trump was the threat to democracy? And they voted to confirm him in. They did it. They did. Kamala Harris was part of that too. I mean, they kept on calling Trump all these things like, a fascist, Hitler 2.0. People like Glenn Greenwald even pointed that out. I want to pull this up here. Shout out to Glenn Greenwald. Be sure to follow him on all of his social media. Let's go and play this video here real quick before we see the delicious CNN meltdown.
Now, today is January 6th, and the Congress gathered as the Constitution requires, and it ratified the results of the Electoral College that certified Donald Trump as the winner and Kamala Harris as the loser of the 2024 election. And despite everything that we've been told about Donald Trump over the last 4 years, really the last 8 years, that he's an existential threat to American democracy, that if he returns to the White House, there will be no more elections. This is the last one. That he's a figure who intends to impose dictatorship on the United States, not just dictatorship, but fascist dictatorship, white nationalist dictatorship, and that he's really a figure on par with the worst monsters in history, if not worse than them, including Adolf Hitler, who we were told right before the election.
No, hold on. It's still pausing here real quick. So I'm gonna...
took place.
Sorry about that for that delay.
That was somebody that Donald Trump had repeatedly expressed admiration for, according to several of his generals who left the White House very angry with him. And it's just very odd to watch somebody who has been depicted as a fascist threat, as the worst human being that exists in history, or certainly one of the worst 2 or 3, who intends to destroy all American democracy, be voted unanimously by the Congress to become the president in 2 weeks. And it's not like they didn't have options. They had all sorts of options. They could have claimed fraud. They could have ran to court. They could have done what many of them actually vowed that they were going to do, which was vote to render Trump ineligible on January 6th on the grounds that he violated the insurrection clause of the Constitution and therefore became ineligible. In fact, if you really are passionate about some threat to the republic, if you really believe in something that passionately, like Adolf Hitler is about to take power in 2 weeks, that is the sort of thing you would do. In fact, Trump's supporters showed that. Many of them really did believe in late December of 2020 and early 2021 that he was the rightful winner of the election and that there was a major theft underway to steal the election from the rightful winner and hand it to the loser. And they didn't just sit around whining about it or complaining about it and did nothing. They actually took action, which is what you would do if you really believe in your maximalist rhetoric. And yet, is there a single person in media or in DC politics or in the Democratic Party acting as though a fascist dictator is about to take power?
The answer is no. But when you have CNN cry about it, when you have The View cry about it, I mean, right here, I mean, if I listen. When you have Sonny Hassan compare January 6th to Holocaust and slavery, I mean, these were horrific events that took place on planet Earth. Yes, slavery, terrible. Yes, the Holocaust, absolutely terrible. These are terrible things that mankind has done to itself, what we have done to ourselves. But January 6th, the government was still beep, boop, beep functioning on January 7th and ad infinitum. Since then, there's been nothing else happening like that. And of course, as more video and evidence came out, it was quite clear that in half the areas or majority of the areas, the doors were open and police said, come on in. And you had people walking around, taking photos, walking around the halls of Congress. I'm pretty sure they might have muttered to themselves, hey, why does it smell like an old folks home in here? I don't know. Just throwing it out there. But the fact you want to compare it to the Holocaust and slavery, two horrific events that have taken place. One institution that's been around since humanity's inception, and especially has left a huge devastating scar in the United States, North America, 400 years. Then you have the Holocaust, another devastating event. Yeah, and corporate media. I mean, I'm watching. I'm pretty sure Sonny Halson's gonna have to do another community note, be like, oh, "I'm sorry, I said that."
What do we do? I think we need to find moral clarity, in this country. And I just remember after January 6th, you had someone like Mitch McConnell placing the blame on January 6th where it belonged, squarely on Donald Trump's shoulders. Mm-hmm. And then you started seeing people backtrack that.
And Gray Walker joined third party with the correct statement. Slavery exists today. Yes, it does. As does genocide. I want him to be wrong, but Gray Walker, join third party is correct. Those things are still around too. Don't ask the involvement of the CIA and what's done. I mean, oops, what?
And losing their moral center. You had Condoleezza Rice, I believe, on this very show saying, we need to move on from January 6th. I say no. You don't move on, because January 6th was an atrocity. It was one of the worst moments in American history. And
I could think of a handful of other things, but nonetheless, let's continue on. Let's hear what this genius has to say.
When you think about the worst moments in American history, like World War II, things that happened, like the Holocaust, chattel slavery.
Well, okay. Now, to be clear here, are you talking about the decimation of the Native American tribes? Because that was a Holocaust. All right. I mean, that's a thing that happened. At the Nuremberg trials, was kind of brought up by the German officers there. Like, when the Allied prosecutors were like, "Where'd you learn this from?" German officers, "We learned it from you, America." Oops. That's the thing that happened. Because there's the Holocaust that happened in Europe during the World War II. What happened? The extermination camps, and then there's also the extermination that happened to Native American people. That's a thing that happened. World War II was a global event. World War I was a global event. The American Civil War, devastating event. Slavery here in America, 400 years, pretty devastating. Women, immigrants, couldn't vote. You had Black people considered 3/5 of a person. I mean, these were terrible things. I'm just throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there. There's a handful of other things worse than what happened on January 6th.
We need to never forget, because past becomes prologue if you forget any race. What?
There you go. And that video is going to keep on repeating itself because it's only 54 seconds, and that's what happens on the YouTube. So there you go. But I also want to pull this up here too, because when you have CNN still crying about this, it's rather funny.
On this Harris business, I think before we canonize Saint Kamala here on the high holy day of January 6th, let's remember the Electoral Count Reform Act of 2022 makes it perfectly clear that the vice president has nothing but purely ministerial duties on this day. She didn't actually certify the results of the election. That's done by the voters.
It was clear as day 4 years ago as well. Right. But because of the
that's the thing. I mean, nobody's trying to canonize her. The same thing was true.
They're not.
Oh, corporate media, you were. Oh no, I remember. You can't rewrite history.
She put out a video trying to canonize herself.
She was actually just saying it's unremarkable. That's true.
That's the opposite of canonizing.
I want to actually congratulate the Democrats today. This is the first election since 1980. This is the first election since 1988 that a Republican won, and Democrats did not try to overturn the results on the floor of the Congress. So congratulations, Democrats.
I'm only interrupting you because we've heard this before.
Oh, yes, we've heard this before, but my goodness, how many times have we heard this from corporate media? Now, of course, the next video I don't think I can play because it does show some violent footages that corporate media played for a loop, because shout out to one of my viewers right here, NJ Native, New Jersey native. If these news stations had the balls, they would run all videos of January 6th on a loop for the entire week, which they won't, but they'll only show selective points of it. But this is a closing of a chapter. Now, no, the liberals are not going to forget about January 6th. I mean, January 6th is engraved in people's minds and in their souls. That's where it's at. And it's not going away anytime soon. But how ironic, on that day of all days, Kamala Harris certifying Donald Trump's win. And of course, the aftermath, the media fallout, the crying, and the comparison of that day, and then trying to canonize Kamala Harris into something that she's not, okay? None of these politicians are honorable, good people. I mean, they've got a lot of problems, and they've been instrumental and forward in creating this nightmare that we're in. And this is a thing that many Americans need to get over. Stop worshiping these politicians. Stop worshiping these days of events that are just being manufactured and hyped up. I understand people being concerned about January 6th. I was more surprised by the stupidity and the inaction and the idiocracy that followed. Okay, yes, Idiocracy, because I like that movie. It's a very good movie. But I mean, as soon as January 6th took place, you know what played in my mind? How is the jackboot of censorship going to kick me in the gut this time? That's what I think. And what a surprise. It did work. And a lot of our colleagues in independent media got hit too. But at least we're still here. And at least we could savor in one historic moment. Kamala Harris certifying Trump. That was funny. And you have to admit, some of you did laugh. Just a little bit.
SWAT team took your neighbor today. Watch them as they walked him away. You told yourself extremists come in all different shapes. Met his eyes and lowered your gaze. Is it too late for us to ever change? We are collecting the dust of better days. They're always watching us, but we're never safe. We're not meant to be safe, not meant to escape. We aren't meant to wake. Sheriff stopped your daughter today. Pepper sprayed her twice in the face. He must have had good reason if he'd treat her that way. At least that's what they've taught you to say. But is it too late for us to ever change? Once we're collecting the dust of better days. They're always watching us, but we're never safe. We're not meant to feel safe, not meant to escape. We aren't meant to wake. Feds arrived and had you detained. Said you'd made some posts they unchanged. Tased you till you felt like you'd forgotten your name, or life before they had you contained. Oh, life before they had you contained. maintain. The SWAT team took your neighbor today.